guys, my name is Nick Broughton and I'm a Randomfish. Hit the subscribe button and let's all be Randomfishes together. So, what do you honestly think makes a good series for young adults? Be it book, or be it film? Honestly, there's a lot of things that will make it interesting. And a lot of things that will make it fun. The problem is, though, is that we look at some of the shows that are on now, as in the shows that are based on the books for young adults, or teenagers, I guess, would be the better term. And I look at them and it just feels weird. I know that a lot of writers and a lot of screenwriters as well out there are trying to encompass these things and trying to make everything work, but it really interests / agitates me when something like Darren Shan's Saga, a book series that has not only a finite amount of books to go from, but also a lot that you could explore with it, is completely denied. But for some reason, a show like Shadowhunters is immediately picked up. Now, of course, I get it. People have their likes and their dislikes and blah blah blah, and that's fine. But speaking as a 30-year-old idiot who enjoys reading some books occasionally, I will say this. The Shadowhunter books, they have some good points. Points that they don't follow through on. They don't follow through. Why? Why do that? Eh? Why do that at all? It's stupid. And it's weird. And it's wrong. It really, really is. And the thing that gets me every single time isn't even the fact that they don't follow it through. It's that they don't follow it through for the most stupid of reasons, and they don't even do it right. What do I mean by this? And why am I getting so agitated about this? Do you know what? I'm going to list it out for you. Okay? In Shadowhunters, we meet the character of Clary Fairchild. A character who, quite frankly, by any and all possible situations, is a very well-adjusted young person. She turns 18, and all of a sudden, she starts experiencing these things from a different world. A world that she's introduced to by means of her apparent, very obviously apparent love interest, Jace Wayland, and a couple of other people called Isabel and Alec Lightwood. They are siblings, I'd like to point out. In fact, so are Jace to them, but Jace is adopted. It's a whole thing. That'll be explored later on. But a whole load of things are revealed to the main character of Clary. Such as, for example, the existence of vampires, werewolves, warlocks, demons, and most importantly, the character that the entire show is based around, Shadowhunters. Beings who have mystical runes all over their body that allow them to heal, see things better, move faster, all this good stuff. So, here's a question. You have this really cool setup, which I will not deny is a very cool setup. So, why do what you do with it? In the first season, we get the following pieces of information. We get the following things happen. It gets revealed that someone who very much has been looking after Clary for most of her life not only has a crush on her mother, but is also a werewolf. Which of these do you think has the most screen time? That's right. The fact that he's crushing on her mother. Christ. Okay. So when they do right, Anyway, the thing that they end up doing right is Clary's best friend Simon. He is a musician type, promoter type guy in the beginning of the show. He eventually gets bitten by and turned into a vampire. And honestly, that is a cool setup, because we actually get, not only do we get him becoming a vampire, but we get Clary very openly and very tragically trying to decide whether or not she wants to try and turn her best friend into a vampire. She sits there agonizing over this concept. She doesn't quite know what she's going to do about it. And that's cool. I like seeing something like that. And eventually, when Simon does become a vampire, he wants time to think about it. He wants to be... He knows that he still wants to be around her, but he also knows that he now has all this other stuff to deal with, like the bloodlust that comes from being a vampire. And yet somehow, throughout the rest of this, vampires are also... We have this whole feud between vampires and werewolves, which, I'm sorry, when did the underworld canon become overall canon for the entire fantasy teen genre? Because I don't remember that happening. Eh? Anybody? No? Didn't think so. And then, the nail in the coffin. Jace... Oh, something else I should probably bring up in all of this. Clary's father, a guy called Valentine Morgenstern. Yeah, I laughed at that name as well. It's just so stupid. Woo, okay. So Valentine Morgenstern... So VM... I'm sorry, I have to call him that from now on. VM is the villain. He's also Clary's father. And he wants to get a hold of the Mortal Cup, which is one of the mortal instruments, which of course is part of the title of the show. Notice that it's below the Shadowhunters aspect, which leads me into one of the things that I find very interesting. VM reveals, through a whole bunch of disguise spells and other such random bits of BS, that he's not only Clary's father, but is also Jace's father. And these two have been kissing. Yeah! Just call Jace Luke Skywalker now, people. And call Clary Princess Leia. Okay, you know what, before I get into this, I want to point this out. I liked this plot twist. I really did. Because in Season 2, or rather at the end of like Season 1 into Season 2 kind of thing, you see them legitimately becoming close as siblings. You see this happen. And then later on down the line, it all gets ruined again. Because it's revealed that he's not her brother, that he is someone entirely different, that he's from a completely different family to what he thought he was in the first place. Let me just blindly point out to you one gigantic problem. If you had kept them as siblings, I'm not even saying this to the writers of the show, I'm saying this to the writer of the books. And no, I haven't read any of the books. I'm sorry, I just don't. Because A, I'm not in the demographic of this book's audience, at least not in age range anyway. And two, to be quite honest with you, it felt very stupidly generic to me, at least when I first saw it. The only character that really gives me any kind of joy whatsoever is someone I'm going to bring up in a minute. But anyway, going back to the Jace Clary thing, if you had kept them as siblings, and if you'd have had to still be a part of each other's lives, be involved in each other's lives, and help each other out, that would have been genius. The most brilliant of subverted expectations to have ever existed. Because if you'd kept them as siblings, two things would have occurred. One, you could have had Clary not only fall in love with someone else and have Jace have to deal with that, but also eventually have the two of them lean on each other for the idea of falling in love. And the fact that they're both so close, the fact that they share a love that is beyond romantic or, you know, trusting what's in your pants, for crying out loud. And the other thing is, quite frankly, in these kind of books, you run into that kind of character very quickly. i.e., I'm not even going to be that pathetic and say female-only fantasy books, but fantasy books where you have a character who is introduced into the magical world. The main character that they then meet, be it either a female character or a male character, I don't really care, but they are the character that the main character will inevitably fall in love with at some point. And it's BS. It's pointless. When you first meet Clary, bumping into Jason, that very first episode of the show, I sat back and went, yeah, those two are going to be boning by the end of the season. It's just... What else? What else do you want? Huh? Seriously. I mean, they might as well have signs above saying, couple alert. Again... Not that I'm against something of this nature happening. What I am against is the fact that you botched it. You had them be declared as siblings. And that was a great twist. It was a great subversion of expectations. If you had kept it, and you hadn't spoiled it by your pathetic need to create twists within characters, you would have had the best sibling relationship in the entire run of your book series because of that. But no, you have to take it back. You have to go, oh no, they're not actually siblings. No, they can go right back to fancying each other now. It's absolutely fine. All you shippers out there will be just as happy. Can I just... Quick question here in the back. Quick question. Are you being dictated by your fan base? Or were you being dictated by your fan base? Because if you were, then I have some questions. And I have some opinions. If you weren't, fine. Good on ya. Do what you think is right. But as someone who comes up with plot lines in his own head, someone who's trying to write scripts, someone who's trying to be a writer himself, I looked at that revelation and thought that was great. I look at the way you retracted that revelation and it annoyed me. And it sickened me. Because I honestly would have loved the direction that could have gone. But you just didn't take it. And not because you had a better solution. No, because you wanted to have that one thing where you knew that the Aryan-looking male character had to end up with the main female lead. Had to happen. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, you know what? This is what I'm thinking. You shouldn't have done it. You just shouldn't have. But, you know what? I'm going to skip ahead to a character I actually liked. The character of Magnus Bane. Whoo, buddy boy. Magnus Bane? Yes. Loved him. Love him with Alec, actually. Not only is this... It can't be the first gay relationship in fantasy books. It can't be. If it is, great. Even more power to them. But if it's not, it wouldn't be surprising to me. But it's quite brilliant how in the show, Alec and Magnus have this almost instant chemistry right from the get-go. And it's fun to see Alec attempt to completely neutralize this charm, or like completely neutralize his feelings, and Magnus just stood there like a very bizarre shoulder devil, whispering in his ear, going, "Go for it, go for it." Yes, brilliant. This is a cool character. He has sarcastic one-liners back to the other characters. He has powers that are incredibly easy to access. He's incredibly sassy. He has strong romantic beliefs. All this stuff is great. And I love him for it. I love his character for it. I really do. And I will say this. It's nice to see very active and very powerful, as it were, representation of a gay couple on screen, especially in a fantasy series. Now, again, I don't believe for a second that that's the first instance we have of that, because honestly speaking, I just don't want to live in a world where we don't have accurate representation of all peoples across all ethnicities, genders, or sexualities. I don't believe in that kind of world anymore. I prefer to have it that way around. But it is fun to see a character like that, characters I should say, and a relationship like that develop over the course of the show. You see their pitfalls, you see their characterization really coming through. If the show was just about these two, I would not have complained. If they were the only relationship that was really consistent, I would not bat an eye. I wouldn't. The problem is that we have all these other relationships being thrown around, and it's not as fun. It's not as interesting to see. And I mean, Magnus is just a fun character. He's hilarious. Like I said, he's sassy as hell. Which, speaking as someone who's quite sassy himself, I enjoy. And when I say sassy, I legitimately mean this. I have answered people back so many times over the course of my life, it's frightening. It gets me in trouble, but it's fun to do. That's my favourite character, and unfortunately, my least favourite character, at least within the first season, is kind of this weird mesh. I like Magnus and Alec together. I don't like Alec on his own. At least in the first season. He just didn't... He felt so very cardboard cutout as a character. And I think sometimes it gets me confused because I don't like Alex sometimes, but then I have this complete visceral, annoying hatred for him. Not because I think he's a badly written character, but because I sit there going, are you freaking nuts? How are you, like, why are you bowing to this weird sort of weird belief systems of your parentals or society at large, you know, screw them kind of mentality. That's sort of where I get it. But unfortunately, when it comes to characterization, when I sit there and think that's a poorly written character, it's hard to say about this sort of thing. But I guess the character that really gets to me the most anyway is either the character of Clary, or even actually the way that... I can't say his name. VM's writing, the way he's written as a character. I know villains are meant to be, especially villains that are of the same ilk as VM. They're very one note. Now, VM's whole deal is he wants to destroy all what's called downworlders. This would include the likes of vampires, werewolves, warlocks, demons, all those kind of things. Because the Shadowhunters work for the angels, and they have angelic blood flowing through them. And VM sees it as this thing that they failed unless they can wipe out all of the downworlders by using either the mortal instruments combined or using a specific mortal instrument known as the Soul Sword to help essentially end things and to end the downworld. The problem is that he goes from being a character who wants to just kill off demons to someone who will very actively kill off people that he cares about, and he'll sit there and make a speech about how he wishes it couldn't have been this way and all this sort of thing, and I just sit back, and every time he starts it, I groan. And not because I've heard the speech 1,000 times, but because I'm bored of it. I'm bored of this type of character. He's annoying. Whatever happened to good old-fashioned, I want to just take over the world mentality? What happened to them? I know villains are meant to have more in-depth stories, but, I mean, I'm sorry. It's like the same kind of thing that certain animated shows suffer from. While I loved Last Airbender as a kid, I say as a kid, I didn't watch it till I was like in my late teens, early 20s, for crying out loud. But I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. Legend of Korra has 4 villains. And they all feel like ham-fisted philosophies being shoved down your throat, replaced by a very generic bad guy that just was one note. The main villain in Avatar was one note, but he wasn't the focus. It was the journey to getting the abilities to beat him. That was the focus. In Shadowhunters, stopping VM is the focus. Things to prepare to defeat him, no. That takes an episode, maybe. Or maybe a couple of episodes, maybe. But it doesn't eliminate the fact that he is constantly around, that he is constantly there as a character. And he bugs me. He just does. Now again, I am talking very generalization. I'm not going to talk about the whole show run because that's just stupid. Seasons 1 and 2 are the main things that I'm looking at. But you do get a very... VM is the only character that I have issues with. And not because I disagree with his plot point or his belief system. I have issues with the way he's written. I just do. But the final thing I want to talk about from Season 2 anyway is going back on what I said about Chase and Clary being related. Clary and Simon get together in Season 2. Spoilers. They get together. And they're a pretty good couple. It's nice. It's cool to see. But then it gets revealed that they aren't related. Jace and Clary aren't related. So why stop that? Why put an end to that part of the story? Because it's dumb. You shouldn't have done that at all. What you could have done is have Clary and Simon legitimately build up their relationship and not have Jace be made available to Clary again. Have them stay as siblings. Because, I'm sorry, I would have loved the idea of Clary and Simon not only being a couple, but having Jace not only come to a point where he's legitimately happy for them, but a point where he himself could move on to another character, and have Clary be someone to give him advice on how to deal with, how to deal with relationships in that way. Instead of that, we have them be smushed together as the power couple that you knew were going to get together from the get-go, and all expectations that you so brilliantly subverted in Season 1, you don't subvert anymore. You completely eliminate the entire thing, and it's just, why? Why do that to yourself? Why put yourself through all of that if that's what you're going to do with it? Why? So what did you think of the show? Now, that's really my thoughts on the first 2 seasons. If you liked them, more power to you, but I just can't understand how this show... I don't understand how these books got to be so popular. I really don't. I think if they'd stuck the landing and stayed with it, they could have done some really good things with it, and they could have kept the same plot points. But unfortunately, they did what they did. And I'm sorry. You've lost my interest. I'll watch the rest of the show and I'll report on what I find, but I'm sorry, but when you made that revelation and eliminated it from the plot lines, you lost me. You lost me as a viewer, you lost me as a performer, as in someone who likes to watch other actors perform as well, because I always find that kind of nice because it means you can pick up on other things. But you also lost me as someone who enjoys good storytelling. You eliminated the best part of the story. You took away the one thing that you could have used. But hey, tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, remember to comment, and remember to check out my other videos as well. You could have done so much better. So much more. Oh well. Randomfish out.